I've been thinking a lot about a phrase I've been hearing, that anti-racist is just a code word for anti-white.
It's starting to make sense. They say that they're anti-racist, but what they really are is anti-white.
Think about it.
Nobody says that a black neighborhood needs more diversity.
Nobody says that an Asian neighborhood needs diversity.
White neighborhoods and only white neighborhoods are said to need more diversity.
Nobody says that a black is seen as good and healthy and normal. Asian pride is seen as good, healthy, and normal.
But if I show pride in my race, the white race, I'm said to be a Nazi who wants to kill 6 million Jews.
Politicians are openly admitting that they are working towards the best interests of their people. Hispanic politicians are openly admitting that they are working towards the best interests of their people.
If a white politician were to openly admit that they were working in the best interest of their people, there would be a national scandal, a public outcry, and would be kicked out of office.
Throughout elementary school, junior high, high school, and college, I was told that my race, the white race, was the cause of all the world's problems. Now, many of you had jobs where minorities say things that would get you, as a white person, instantly fired.
This conditioning is done to white people and only white people. White children and only white children are being affected by this, and only white countries are doing this.
The Aztecs conquered many surrounding Native American tribes, practiced human sacrifice, and held slaves.
Yet anti-racists don't say that Mexicans must apologize forever and have their lands forcibly flooded with non-Mexicans, and whites and only whites are demonized for this violence. Anti-racism is the code word for anti-white. Resist this conditioning by using this mantra.
Africa for the Africans, Asia for the Asians, white countries for everyone.
Everybody says that there's this race problem. Everybody says that this race problem will only be solved when the third world pours into white countries and only white countries.
The Netherlands and Belgium are just as crowded as Japan and Taiwan, but nobody says that Japan and Taiwan will solve this race problem by bringing in millions of third worlders and, quote, assimilating, unquote, with them.
Everybody says that the final solution to this race problem is for every white country, and only white country, to assimilate, i.e. intermarry.
Not a YouTuber, just like making videos, and boy, I got a doozy on this one. This is one of the white genocide videos that are circulating. Now this video's actually pretty popular. It's you know, it's been mirrored and copied on other channels. So if you come across this video and it only has 400 views, that means someone mirrored it. There's been you know, I've seen the same video with 100,000 views and so forth, and I can't believe the asinine rhetoric of you know, how illogical this video is, and it shows whites paranoia. You know, just how they have a selective memory when it comes to history, and it goes into the whole, you know, oh, the poor white people, we're disintegrating and so forth. But this video, you know, I find it kind of peculiar that they used only white women, you know, and this goes to all the jigaboos out there, these black men that salivating over white women. This video is, you know, I've said it before that white women can be racist. Now, I think that the architect of this video was probably a white guy, and he used white women. And there are certainly a number of reasons why he used only white women. One, because white women, or women in general, seem less threatening. So there's a good chance that this video won't get flagged down and so forth. Also, to prove to blacks and other races no, white women aren't they aren't fond of you like that. You know, we still think that the white women is just so lust over the black man that the white women can't be racist, and so forth. Now I understand that these females could be paid to do it. This may not be their views, but they participated in it, so therefore I'm going to take it for face value. Also, using white women will also invoke emotions and a lot of white male racists. Like seeing a woman and they want to protect their woman, and you know, when you have white genocide going on, sir, they say, you know, these pretty little white women will be in danger. And not all of them was pretty at all. I like one of the white women there. She shouldn't even be talking about white genocide. She should have been talking about the genocide of her teeth. You know, that one skinny one. I'm like, no. You know, I say you need to go down to the dentist. Don't worry about, you know, this make-believe genocide and so forth. But here we go. They constantly say that anti-racist is a code word for anti-white. No, anti-racist is a code word for anti-racist. Hence, Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam were called racist not only by white people, but by black people. Hence, white people also point the finger and use the R word. I'm like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton get called racists all the time, called race baiters. Obama is called the racist. You know, so white people act like it's only them being called racist, pointing fingers at them when they need to check out their own backyard, you know, and so forth. And also, while white people are worried about, you know, what black persons are racist, and if you want to condemn racism altogether, you need to check your own. They need to check Rush Limbaugh and people like Michael Savage, you know, for their rhetoric and so forth. Now, another thing they say that's interesting, they say the race problem will be solved. They feel that there's propaganda saying that people from the third world come into white countries and only white countries. You know, I don't know exactly what would they consider to be the third world. You know, and I guess say the third world is a code word for non-white nations. You know, because we have a large influx of Chinese in this country, especially on the West Coast. You know, going to the predominant universities there. There's a lot of Asian people coming in and going to Ivy League colleges all over. And I wouldn't consider China a third world country because they have a very strong economy. You know, they got a lot of people that can afford to get fake lifts and, you know, get plastic surgery, whatever, to whiten their eyes. You know, so, and yes, America has a lot of people from third world nations, but we also have a lot of people from everywhere. You know, from countries that are stronger than ours. You know, and so forth. So that's an insult to, you know, anybody who has melanin in their skin. And when they consider white countries, what do they call it? What is their definition of a white country? They must be clear about that. Now, I can't speak of Europe because I don't live in Europe. I don't know their social politics and so forth. But it seems like these white women these white people talking about white genocide are so worried about all these white countries. Now I'm like, what do you do? Are you committing treason? You know, this is America. White people, did they forget their own history? They fled Europe to come to America. And then why are they worried about all these other people flooding into countries that they've abandoned, that they've left? Because, you know what I'm saying, they didn't like the politics that was going on there at that time. They shouldn't be worried about it. Hence, you know, so it's like, and, you know, from what I know, these immigrants aren't coming to these European countries committing crimes. They're becoming productive members of society. They got, you know, they're driving taxi cabs. They got their little fish market stands going on, and so forth. And the main perpetrators of crime in Europe are white Europeans and gypsies are Europeans too. And then they go into Asian countries for Asian people, black countries for black people, and when you say white countries for white people, then it's racist. That's racist. You know, as I've said, I don't mind anybody going to any country. That's whites' own paranoia. But with black people, you know what I'm saying, whites and other people have a real bad history of exploiting the Africans, you know, and so forth, taking over their diamond mines, raping the continent, getting involved in their civil wars, getting, you know, these guys to kill each other so they can rape the benefits. But if someone goes to Africa or so forth and they settle down and they say, hey, I just want to be a productive member of society, I want to contribute to society, I want to help out, nobody has a problem with that. Still to this day, most countries, as stated by Randall Robinson, welcome white people with open arms. Even Africans, when white people, educated white people, want to go there and do business and so forth. But you know what they say about Americans, that we only speak one language. So when it comes to white Americans, they're least likely to go somewhere and migrate someplace and start their own business. One thing due to the language barrier, you know what I'm saying? English is the most universal language. Very easy to get over that language barrier because all the movies, and once you learn how to speak English, you can easily come to this country and find work, you know, right? And so forth. Even if you know Spanish, or even if you know a little bit of English. And also when it comes to these third worlders, as they say, coming to this country, they must understand they're finding work, you know what I'm saying? Whites are giving them jobs, paying them pennies and so forth. And now with the with minimum wage on the verge of being raised everywhere in this country to $9 to $10, whatever, it's going to be more enticing for some employers to go and get, you know, third worlders and have them work for $5 an hour and so forth, so they don't have to pay minimum, because they work off the books and they don't have to pay minimum wage to American citizens and so forth. So as I said, they need to check their own people on that, you know. And then they talk about white pride, that, you know what I'm saying, that if black people could show you know what I'm saying, pride in their race, and Asian people can show pride in their race and so forth. Asians don't really show racial pride. They show pride in their nationality, because Asians will tell you that our Asian pride is really at a minimum. Asians will tell you they'll be distinct. Hey, I'm Japanese, I'm Chinese, I'm Filipino, and so forth. You know, Asians will tell you that there's Asian countries that are completely fucked up and primitive and backwards, you know, and so forth. But white pride has gotten white people into so much trouble. You know, it's become synonymous with a white extremist and white nationalist. And hence, white people, they simply, you know what I'm saying, will not check their own people and so forth. You know, and you know, like you know what I'm saying, like they feel that white racism, or you know what I'm saying, is so over exaggerated and hyperbole. You know, and so, and you know, and they ignore their own history about, you know, the Ku Klux Klan hanging people, neo-Nazis, the Nazis, that this white pride and white nationalism has caused war and has caused genocide. You know, I'm like, it's synonymous to terrorism, if you ask me. And so black pride, you know what I'm saying, didn't cause that sort of harm. Now, black pride or African pride has a long history of genocide and going to other people's countries and wiping them out and killing them, you know, and so forth, then I don't understand people being cautious and wary of black pride. But for the most part, the black pride has not really caused a death of white people unless it's in self-defense. Black Panthers, even the old Black Panthers or the new Black Panthers, the Nation of Islam or whatever, does not have a history of going around killing white people. They condemn killing and so forth. You know, but and also, yes, going into white countries, you know what I'm saying, what defines what a white country is. You know, white people, you know, they go into other countries or whatever, conquer and pillage, and then they say, oh, it's a white country. This is unfair, especially here in America, when people of color have been here and have been establishing governments and so forth before the white man came. He just, you know, saying he chopped down the cherry tree, you know, and all of a sudden it's a white nation. And then when these people want their country back and so forth, then they're like, oh wow, this is a white country. No, that's not fair. You know what I'm saying? That's not playing by the rules. I'm like, nobody forced whites to leave Europe and so forth. I'm like, you can't just leave, conquer the globe or whatever, and then say that, oh, this is a white country. You know, that's completely unfair. You know what I'm saying? That's being very hypocritical. You know, that's also being stingy, being greedy. I know I'm using simple terms there. I'm like, no, that's being completely totalitarian, you know, and so forth. I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. So no, so you get what you get when it comes to America, you know. And then they go on and say that every white person is told that their ancestors loot and plundered and so forth and caused all the major problems of the world. I don't know what textbook they're reading. Now, anybody well versed in history know that, you know, you have problems with China. China had problems. Africa had problems with Africa and so forth. But white people, as Khalid Muhammad said, you know, had their fingertips dipped in the blood of everybody they come across, even the Chinese. They have a history of that. They brag about their history, you know, of expanding and so forth. I'm like, the Chinese don't have a history of wiping out Aboriginal people. You know, the Japanese, they had sailboats. They could have done it, and they had maritime knowledge. White people weren't the only ones hitting the high seas. It's just that whites do it, and they simply don't want to deal with the repercussions or the backlash, or at least people criticizing them for it. I mean, they've already, you know what I'm saying? They've already got the spoils. You know, to the looter goes the spoils. But then they don't even want to hear about it, you know. And so I'm like, that's completely silly when they created their own campaigns that is well documented or whatever to go into these countries, you know what I'm saying, given orders by the Pope or whatever. They split it up to go into these countries and do what they want to civilize the savages, you know, to teach Christianity to these Gentiles. And while they was doing it, they was also enslaving them and killing them and so forth. And they don't even want to. It's not like white people are going to lose their land. It's not like they're saying, hey, you stole this land, now you're going to have to leave this land and give it back to the people. No, people just got their gripes, you know what I'm saying? They got their criticisms, you know, and they don't even want to deal with that. I'm like, hell, you're already sitting high on the horse. You know what I'm saying? You're already eating good. You already got the best of the land and so forth. So this shows me the fucking arrogance of white people and how they're like fucking whiny crybabies. You know, look at what the blacks and the aboriginals got to go through. Not only do we have to go through extreme racism, we get the low end of the hog. You know what I'm saying? We're occupying the worst of the land, get the worst jobs, got the worst education, got the worst schoolings and so forth. You know what I'm saying? Got completely conquered and bitched out. You know, treated like animals by white people, and white people don't want to hear no kind of backlash, then they claim to be the victims and so forth. No, it doesn't work like that. And then whites talk about slavery and talking about, well, the ancient Aztecs and enslaved neighboring Indian tribes. My thing is, if someone enslaves a group of people, if these people fight back and kill them, I'm all for it. I hate slave drivers. I don't care what color they are, whether they're black, brown, or whatever. If there was an African nation that enslaved another African nation, and this nation rised up and fought back and had some kind of bloody revolution, I would applaud them. Yes, you know what I'm saying. All slavers should be have to suffer the consequence. Hence, take the situation in Zanzibar, which I mentioned it, which you can find in the documentary Africa Deal. This is why my videos are crucial. This is why I've become my own best. I'm my own biggest fan, because I can give you reference like this, where I have solid speaking points or whatever, and why I'm the master debater, and why my arguments are tighter than the airlock on a submarine hull. In Zanzibar, you had these black Arabs and these Muslims or whatever. They created a slave port. And, you know what I'm saying, even though when slavery was over, when they wasn't dealing with slavery, the descendants of the enslavers, of the Muslims, were living better than the descendants of the people who were enslaved. And what happened? around the 1960s or whatever, they had a massacre. You know, the poor people had an uprising and took the rich people, and it was a bloody massacre. The rich Muslims or whatever, the people who owed power, you know what I'm saying, they were sent on exodus. The ones that were there were killed. You know, and I'm not saying it was right, but I understand what they went through and so forth. So I'm not blaming just white people. But hence, the descendants of the slaves, of the oppressed, are going to have their grievance and so forth, especially when the descendants of the colonizers are still living good, you know what I'm saying, are still sipping on their porch, living in their colonial type of home, sitting on tea and so forth. But when the Aztecs, whatever, conquered these neighboring Indian tribes, did they say to them, hey, you're inferior, you're closer to a monkey, this is why I'm enslaving to you, you're simply a Gentile? Sure, the Aztecs are these higher ups in the Aztec society, whatever, their priests or whatever, thought that they were better, that their civilization was better than these other people. But did they feel that they were genetically a superior person? Did they feel that these other tribes were close to a monkey and it's best to exploit them because they weren't fully evolved human beings? White people still leave out their racial component. It wasn't so forth that white people enslaved us and they said, hey, well, you know, you're just a slave, you know, you just got bad luck, doesn't mean that I'm better than you, it's just, you know, these are just bad situations. No, they simply put themselves closer to God, you know, on a religious level and on a scientific level. They put themselves higher on the evolutionary scale and said that blacks are just simply less intelligent, they had smaller brains and so forth. So this is the gripe. But of course whites, and they have books, their own racist people, I can't think of their names right now, have written books to justify slavery, to justify the degradation of black people and so forth. And they're going to completely leave that out. So my thing is with white people, you made your bed, you have to lay in it, and it goes into an even playing field. See, this is the thing. All the thing we're asking white people to do is play fair. Let it be an even playing field, you know what I'm saying? Let's see what happens. But instead, they want to get mad or whatever. They got their paranoia. Now they want to lock up and seal up their borders. They want to lock up their neighborhoods and so forth. And now, you know what I'm saying, once again create advantage. So this video shows me that they're weak. Have an even playing field. You know, put your cards on the table. Let's have a fair game and let's see what happens. This shows you that they don't simply play fair and that on an even playing field, I know I'm repeating myself, when it comes to blacks and so forth, they get paranoid. You know, and so forth. They start to lose their positions. Hence, they set the rules and they tell black people